I tracked 2 coworkers for an entire year. Same company, same city, same cost of living. On paper, they live almost identical lives, but their financial realities could not be further apart. The first coworker, let's call him Marcus, earns $90,000 a year. If you drove past his apartment complex, you would assume he was doing well. New SUV in the parking lot. Smart home system. A storage unit down the road he pays $185 a month for, full of things he doesn't remember owning. His closet has clothes he hasn't touched in 2 years. His kitchen has gadgets still in their original packaging. His phone is the newest model, upgraded 7 months ago when his perfectly working previous phone was traded in for a marginal camera improvement. Marcus checks his bank account on Sunday nights with a tight feeling in his chest. If 2 paychecks disappeared tomorrow, he would be in genuine crisis. The second coworker is Diane. She earns $55,000 a year. Her apartment is calm, uncluttered. She drives a reliable 7-year-old car she owns outright. Her closet has clothes she actually wears. Her kitchen has exactly the tools she uses regularly. She has no storage unit. She has no outstanding subscriptions she forgot about. Diane checks her bank account with calm, steady confidence. She has 14 months of expenses saved. She invests 18% of every paycheck automatically. She recently turned down a promotion that came with a 15% raise because the role would have required 60-hour weeks and constant travel. She could afford to say no. Marcus could not have made that choice. Same company, same city. The person earning $35,000 less per year has more savings, more freedom, and more peace of mind. Then this is not a story about income. It is a story about a hidden trap, one that catches high earners especially hard, and the 10 rules that separate people who always have money from people who never do, regardless of what they earn. Before we get to the rules, you need to understand one idea that will permanently change how you look at every purchase you make. Every possession you own carries a shadow cost. The price tag is just the entry fee. But the shadow cost is what you keep paying long after the receipt is thrown away. The shadow cost has 4 layers, and most people have never calculated any of them. The first layer is opportunity cost. Every dollar sitting in a depreciating possession is a dollar not compounding in an investment. That $2,400 camera kit Marcus's colleague bought for a photography phase he abandoned after 4 months, that money, invested at average market returns over 12 years, would be worth more than $7,500. He didn't just buy a camera. He bought a camera instead of future financial freedom. The second layer is space cost. Storage costs money. Whether you rent a storage unit like Marcus, or whether you are paying for square footage inside your home, every item you own is occupying space that has a dollar value. In most mid-sized cities, you are paying between $25 and $45 per square foot annually in living costs. As that exercise bike collecting dust in your spare bedroom isn't free to keep. You are paying rent on it every single month. The third layer is maintenance cost. Things require upkeep. They need to be cleaned, serviced, insured, registered, and eventually disposed of. A vacation cabin sounds appealing until you calculate the insurance, property taxes, maintenance fees, cleaning costs, and the vehicle you need to get there. What appeared to be an $80,000 purchase is often a $130,000 reality once the full maintenance picture is added up over 10 years. The fourth layer is mental bandwidth cost. Every item you own occupies a small piece of your attention. It needs to be cleaned, organized, worried about, and eventually replaced. Research has shown that visual clutter raises cortisol levels and reduces the brain's ability to sustain focus. Your possessions aren't just sitting quietly, they are placing a daily noise tax on your mind. When you add all 4 layers together, many possessions cost more to own than they cost to buy. The minimalist rules I'm about to walk you through are built on this single truth. Let's get into them. Rule 1. Calculate cost per use before you buy anything. Most people evaluate purchases based on the price tag. Minimalists evaluate purchases based on cost per use. And it is the only honest measure of whether something is actually worth buying. The formula is simple. Take the total cost of the item. Estimate how many times you will realistically use it. Not how many times you hope to use it, but how many times you actually will. Divide cost by uses. That number tells you the truth. A $180 jacket worn 3 times costs $60 per use. A $350 jacket worn 200 times costs $1.75 per use. The more expensive jacket is dramatically cheaper in every meaningful sense. The cheaper jacket is a financial black hole dressed up as a bargain. This math destroys impulse purchases instantly. That $280 kitchen appliance you'll use 4 times a year costs $70 per use in the first year alone. That is an extraordinarily expensive way to do whatever that appliance does. Meanwhile, a $40 tool you reach for twice a week costs less than 50 cents per use within the first month. Cost per use also reveals which higher-priced purchases are genuinely worth it. A quality $1,600 mattress used every night for 10 years costs roughly 44 cents per use. For something that directly affects your sleep, energy, and health every single day, that is exceptional value. A reliable $1,400 espresso machine used daily for 5 years costs less than 80 cents per use and almost certainly saves money compared to a daily coffee shop habit. The math cuts through marketing, social pressure, and emotional impulse. Before your next purchase, any purchase, run the numbers. You will be surprised how often something that felt reasonable suddenly looks absurd. Rule 2. Run every possession you already own through the Repurchase Test. A walk through your home and look at each item you own. Ask yourself one question. If this item disappeared today, would I spend money to get it back? Be completely honest. Would you repurchase that pasta maker sitting in the back of the cabinet? Would you go out and buy another countertop ice cream machine? Would you spend money again on those clothes you haven't worn in over a year? For the majority of items in most homes, the truthful answer is no. You would not choose them again. They exist in your space through inertia. Impulse buys from a different season of life, gifts kept out of obligation, equipment from hobbies you no longer pursue. You didn't consciously decide to keep them. You simply never consciously decided to let them go. These items carry negative value. They consume space, mental bandwidth, and maintenance time while returning nothing. Every hour spent cleaning around things you wouldn't choose again is an hour quietly stolen from things that actually matter to you. Owning things you wouldn't choose again is just paying a daily tax on a past decision. The longer they stay, the more that tax compounds. Removing these items feels uncomfortable at first. Then, it feels like setting down a bag you forgot you were carrying. Rooms feel larger. Decisions feel simpler. When you know where everything is because everything still there has a reason to be there. That clarity is not just aesthetic. It is financial. Every item removed is overhead eliminated. Rule 3. Never replace something that still functions properly. There is a pattern that shows up constantly in the financial lives of people who earn well but accumulate nothing. They upgrade perfectly working things, not because those things have failed, but because they are bored with them, or because a newer version exists, or because someone in their social circle recently upgraded. The phone works perfectly, but the new release has a slightly better camera. The car runs without issue, but the new model year has updated exterior styling. The laptop handles every task required of it, but the new version is a little faster. The furniture serves its purpose, but they have grown tired of looking at it. These upgrades feel like improvements. No, they are actually wealth destruction dressed up as progress. Consider the phone alone. The average person replaces their phone every 2 to 3 years, often while the previous phone is fully functional. Run that pattern over 28 years. At today's phone prices, you are looking at $35,000 to $55,000 in unnecessary purchases from one device category. Apply the same upgrade culture to cars, laptops, furniture, appliances, and clothing. The lifetime waste easily surpasses $200,000. Minimalists apply a strict definition of broken. An item is broken when it genuinely cannot perform the function it exists to perform. Not when it's older, not when a newer version exists, not when boredom sets in, not when a neighbor or colleague upgraded. When it literally cannot do its job anymore, that is when replacement is justified. Boredom with something that works is not a maintenance problem. It is a marketing problem. The entire upgrade industry is built on manufacturing the feeling that functional things are somehow inadequate. Recognizing that feeling for what it is, a manufactured emotion, not a genuine need, is one of the most financially valuable skills you can develop. Rule 4. Stop relying on willpower and start engineering your environment. Willpower is a finite resource. It depletes throughout the day. By evening, after a long day of decisions, stress, and mental output, willpower is at its lowest. And that is exactly when most impulse spending happens. Relying on discipline to prevent poor spending decisions is a strategy that will eventually fail because humans are not built for constant self-regulation under pressure. Minimalists don't trust willpower. They design systems that make the right choice the automatic choice. Spending friction means making it harder to spend impulsively. Remove saved credit card details from online retailers. Delete shopping apps from your phone. Unsubscribe from promotional and retail emails. Avoid browsing stores unless you have a specific, intentional purchase in mind. Most importantly, implement a 48-hour waiting rule on any non-essential purchase. Want something? Write it down. Wait 48 hours. Come back to it. That one rule alone eliminates roughly 65 to 70% of impulse purchases. Most desires for objects dissolve on their own within 2 days if they are not acted on immediately. Urgency is a retail invention, not a genuine financial need. Saving ease means making it easier to build wealth automatically. Set up an automatic transfer to your investment account on the same day your paycheck arrives. Invest before you see the money. Keep only a modest, intentional amount in your everyday checking account. Now treat your savings contribution as a fixed expense, the same way you treat rent, not as whatever is left over at the end of the month. The person who designed their environment well will outperform the person relying on discipline every single time. You do not need more self-control. You need a smarter setup. Rule 5. Count your possessions regularly. This sounds extreme until you actually do it. The act of counting forces awareness, and awareness, more than any budget or savings app, prevents accumulation from quietly spiraling. Pick one category and count how many items you own in it. Write the number down. Don't estimate. Actually count. Most people significantly undercount their own possessions before they do this exercise. How many shirts do you own? The average person guessing says somewhere between 8 and 15. The actual count is usually 30 to 45. How many kitchen tools? How many pairs of shoes? How many items are in your junk drawer that you couldn't even name without opening it? The number itself changes your behavior. Once you know you own 38 shirts, buying another one feels different. You are not adding a shirt. You are adding the 39th shirt to a collection you already aren't using fully. The absurdity becomes visible in a way it never was before you counted. Minimalists take this further by setting category maximums, a defined number of clothing items, a defined number of books at any given time, a one-in, one-out rule. Any new purchase requires removing something that already exists in that category. These limits are not about punishment. They are about creating a moment of friction that forces a conscious decision before acquisition happens automatically. Without intentional limits, possessions expand to fill available space. That is not a character flaw. It is human nature responding to an environment without constraints. Add the constraints deliberately, and the pattern reverses. Rule 6. Rent or borrow before you commit to ownership. Here is a pattern that has quietly drained enormous amounts of money from people who consider themselves financially reasonable. They develop enthusiasm for a new interest or hobby. The enthusiasm feels genuine and lasting. They invest in equipment and gear to pursue it properly. Several months later, the enthusiasm fades. The equipment stays. The money is gone. As the garages and spare bedrooms of middle-class households across this country are graveyards of good intentions. Photography gear from when they imagined becoming serious about it. Camping equipment from the phase when they thought they would go regularly. Musical instruments from bands that played 2 shows. Exercise equipment that now holds clean laundry. Minimalists test interests before investing in them. Want to try rock climbing? Go with a rental kit 3 or 4 times before buying a single piece of gear. Want to get into woodworking? Use a shared makerspace or borrow tools from someone who already owns them. Want a kayak? Rent one several times across different seasons before committing to ownership. This approach does 2 things. First, it reveals whether the enthusiasm is real or temporary. And most of the time, you will know within 2 or 3 sessions. Better to find out while renting for $30 than after spending $800 on equipment. Second, when you do eventually decide to buy, you will know exactly what you need. Not the beginner's kit, not the wrong size or wrong model. Precisely what you actually use. The buy-first mentality has filled more garages with regret than almost any other financial habit. Test first. Own only what the evidence supports. Rule 7. Calculate the full ecosystem cost. Need not just the purchase price. Every major possession connects to a web of supporting possessions and ongoing expenses. No significant purchase exists in isolation. There is always an ecosystem that comes with it, and the ecosystem is often more expensive than the item itself. Consider a vacation cabin. The purchase price feels like the cost, but a vacation cabin requires property insurance, property taxes, basic furnishing, a reliable vehicle capable of reaching it, routine maintenance, seasonal upkeep, cleaning costs whether you hire someone or spend your own weekends doing it, and eventually significant repairs as the structure ages. What presents itself as an $85,000 purchase is often a $140,000 to $160,000 reality over the first decade when the full ecosystem is accounted for. Consider a motorcycle. The bike itself is one cost. But riding safely requires a quality helmet, jacket, gloves, and boots. Storage requires a secure space. Most riders end up needing a truck or trailer to transport the bike to riding locations. Then there is specialized maintenance, insurance, and registration. A $9,000 motorcycle purchase realistically represents a $14,000 to $17,000 decision once the ecosystem is fully priced. Minimalists calculate the full ecosystem before any major purchase. They ask not just what this item costs, but what this item requires. What else will I need to buy, store, maintain, and insure because I own this? The honest answer to that question transforms many seemingly reasonable purchases into clearly excessive ones. The ecosystem effect also reverses powerfully. Eliminating one major possession often eliminates an entire category of connected expenses simultaneously. The savings extend far beyond the item's value. Sometimes selling one thing feels like getting a raise. Rule 8. Define what enough looks like before your income grows. This is the trap that catches high earners more reliably than almost anything else. They never decide in advance what enough looks like. So as their income grows, their lifestyle expands automatically to absorb it. They earn more, spend more, and the gap between income and expenses stays perpetually small or disappears entirely. But people earning $250,000 a year often feel as financially anxious as people earning $70,000 a year. Not because $250,000 is insufficient, but because their expectations and expenses expanded alongside their income, and the finish line moved every time they got close to it. The hedonic treadmill runs at whatever speed you set it to, and most people never choose the speed deliberately. Now, minimalists break this cycle by writing down what enough looks like before they ever reach it. They decide in advance. This is the home that is sufficient for my needs, not the home I would buy if I could. This is the car that meets my genuine transportation requirements, not the car that signals my income level. This is the wardrobe that serves me well, not the wardrobe that impresses people I don't know. Once that enough ceiling is defined and reached, something extraordinary happens. Every dollar earned beyond enough flows directly to building freedom rather than inflating lifestyle. The person who defined enough at $65,000 of annual spending and then grew their income to $140,000 is investing $75,000 per year in their future. The person earning the same $140,000 but continuously redefining enough upward is investing almost nothing. Without a defined finish line, you are running a race that was designed to never end. Define the finish line in writing. Refer to it when temptation pushes you to move it. The discipline to hold it steady is where real wealth is quietly built. Rule 9. Stop measuring wealth by what you have and start measuring it by what you can choose. The conventional definition of wealth is visible. Houses, cars, gadgets, luxury brands, square footage, things that can be seen and counted and compared. But that definition of wealth is deeply misleading because you can have all of those things and still have almost no real freedom. Minimalists measure wealth differently. They measure it by optionality, the range of choices available to them at any given moment. Can you leave a job that is damaging your mental health without immediate financial panic? Can you take 3 months away from work to handle a family emergency without catastrophic consequences? Can you relocate to a new city for a relationship or an opportunity? Can you start a business without a guaranteed paycheck from day one? Can you retire before the standard age if you want to? Can you say no to a well-paying opportunity that conflicts with your values? Diane said no to a promotion. She declined a role that would have raised her salary by 15%, but would have consumed her evenings and weekends for the foreseeable future. She could make that choice because her expenses were low and her savings were substantial. Marcus, earning $35,000 more per year, could not have made that same choice. His lifestyle required every dollar he earned. The question worth asking before any significant purchase is not whether you can afford it. The question is whether it is worth reducing your ability to make free choices about your own life. Sometimes the answer is yes, but asked clearly and honestly, the answer is often no. True wealth is not what you accumulate, it is what you can afford to walk away from. Rule 10. Build cyclical awareness instead of relying on annual purges. Most people who discover minimalism follow the same pattern. They do a massive clear out, feel an immediate and powerful sense of relief, and then gradually, invisibly, accumulate right back to where they started. Within 18 to 24 months, the environment looks nearly identical to before the purge. The purge felt productive. The reaccumulation happened in slow motion, one item at a time, too gradually to notice until the problem had fully rebuilt itself. Cyclical awareness prevents this. Instead of one dramatic intervention per year, minimalists build small, regular review habits that catch accumulation early, before it reaches a point that feels overwhelming to address. A weekly habit as simple as reviewing what came into your home that week takes less than 5 minutes and prevents unconscious accumulation from going unchecked. A monthly habit of reviewing one specific category keeps individual areas from quietly expanding. A quarterly look at the overall picture catches trends early. Removing 3 to 5 items per week is sustainable and nearly invisible in terms of effort. Removing 300 items once a year feels enormous and often gets postponed indefinitely. Cyclical awareness also builds something more valuable than a tidy home. It builds an understanding of your own accumulation patterns. You start to notice which emotional states trigger buying. You recognize which categories tend to creep. You identify which specific marketing tactics work on you personally. That self-knowledge enables prevention rather than just repeated treatment. But prevention is always cheaper than treatment, in health, in finances, and in the clutter that quietly drains both. Here is how to put all 10 rules into motion starting today. This week, walk through your home with the Repurchase Test. Identify 10 items you would not choose to own again if they disappeared tomorrow. Sell, donate, or discard them. Notice what it feels like to deliberately remove things you were keeping through inertia rather than intention. This month, implement the 48-hour rule on every non-essential purchase. Keep a simple list of things you wanted to buy. Track how many desires survive the waiting period versus how many dissolve on their own. The data will tell you more about your spending patterns than any budget spreadsheet. This quarter, count your possessions in 3 categories that tend to accumulate: clothing, kitchen items, and anything related to hobbies or entertainment are the most common. Set a realistic maximum for each one. Create a one-in, one-out rule going forward. This year, write your enough definitions. What kind of home is genuinely sufficient for your needs? What level of transportation actually serves you? What does your wardrobe need to contain to function well? Write these answers down somewhere you will see them. They become your anchor when lifestyle inflation temptation arrives. And it will. These rules create a self-reinforcing loop. That spending less leads to saving more. Saving more creates genuine financial security. Security reduces the emotional pressure to spend impulsively. Reduced spending accelerates saving further. Each cycle builds on the last. The opposite loop is equally self-reinforcing and far more destructive. Spending everything creates financial anxiety. Financial anxiety drives more spending as temporary emotional relief. More spending deepens the anxiety. The loop continues until some external shock forces a breaking point. The choice between these 2 loops is not an income question. It is a clarity question. Marcus earns more. Diane has more freedom. The difference between them is not talent or luck or circumstance. It is that Diane decided, clearly and in writing, what enough looked like, and then she stopped there. The coworker earning $55,000 is not deprived. She is free. And that freedom was available to the other coworker too. It has been available the whole time. The only thing standing between him and it is the decision to stop moving the finish line. These 10 rules are not about owning less for the sake of it. They are about understanding, clearly and with real numbers, that most accumulation does not improve your life. It finances a version of it that quietly owns you. The version that does not own you is available right now. At whatever income you currently have, it has always been available. The only requirement is deciding to take it.